Thank you.
Okay, hi, this is Councilmember Doreen Garland, and I want to welcome everybody to the Human Services and Community Safety Committee meeting. It's important to understand that no formal votes or decisions about city programs, policies, or budgets will happen here. Our role is to explore various topics with staff and stakeholders and community members and to make recommendations to our council colleagues. We want this process to be transparent, inclusive, and easy for you to be a part of whenever you choose to be. And you can share your thoughts with us by filling out a comment card about any item on a meeting agenda or by reaching out to us directly with any other thoughts or questions or ideas. We need you to fill out a comment card in advance. It can be read into the record for any agendized item. The link to the comment cards can be found on our committee webpage at www.tempe.gov/HSCS. And you will also find contact information for committee members and staff there for non-agendized questions as well. So again, I'd like to call this meeting to order on October 19th, 2022. It's the meeting of the Human Services and Community Safety Council Committee. So our first item to do is our review of our meeting minutes. Councilmember Navarro, do you have any changes or adjustments to our minutes? Councilmember Navarro. Okay, thank you. All right. I will make a motion to approve the June 24th, 2022 meeting minutes. Councilmember Navarro.
So moved.
All right, we passed that already. All right, now we're on to item number 3, public comments. The committee welcomes public comment. According to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the committee may only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Matters brought up by the public under public appearances that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. A 3-minute limit per person will be in effect. Do we have any comment cards?
No, Councilmember Garland, none have been submitted for this meeting.
All right, well, we're just scooting right along. All right, so now we're on to agenda item number 4. So our first item is A1, and it's a discussion on the Tempe Town Lake water safety. I would like to welcome Fire Deputy Chief, Anthony Butch to our discussion. And I will let Councilmember Navarro take over this discussion with me.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to let everyone know, real quick, that I brought this issue up. I think this is one of those things that as we're growing in our downtown area, especially around our lake, we're seeing more and more activity that is happening. And with that activity, there comes a factor of safety. And we just want to make sure that what resources we have around our lake, are they adequate? Do we need to apply more? All that good stuff. So with that said, it's been often brought to my attention from various constituents and just people in discussion. Hey, what are we going to do about boat safety or water safety? Do we have any idea if we would expand lifeguards out on the lake? How would that look like? All that good stuff. So with this today, I just wanted to briefly maybe have just a kind of an overview of well, I'm giving you an overview of what my concern is, but maybe the public safety group, kind of takes us back for like a work study to come back with suggestions. And what I bring up is suggestions like, what would be those resources? Would it be a fire police combination, a boat, a jet ski? Would it be just lifeguards that are not police or fire, but maybe it's on a part-time basis? What hours of the day would be the most critical to possibly staff some sort of rescue team around the lake for different events? Are those just on event days? Is it on high use days? And what are those high use days typically? Are they presently now. I'm just driving and being part of the lake from time to time. On the weekends, we're seeing more, sailboats and boating out there. So what activities do we need to have a presence in case an event were to happen? And just kind of looking at the data that might help us out in maybe addressing, those needs. I think that it's safe to say that with a lake that's being viewed or actually being visited just under the Grand Canyon, I think it's worthwhile to explore these options and the potential of a boat safety, jet ski, water team, lifeguard rescue team, whatever it may be. And where would those resources be housed at? Where would they be located at? Best use. And like I said, this is something that, if we had to, maybe we can turn it on today. But if not, we're trying to be proactive in projecting, next year and the year after, and when we can best likely apply these resources. Where will we get the funding from? Does the lake impact fees help us in supporting that resource at the lake? I know that properties in and around the lake have to pay a fee for being in that location. Do those fees help incorporate a rescue team? Impact fees, just because of the development around the lake, those impact fees could potentially have some capital funds that can help support this rescue team. So I think what I'm looking at is for fire, PD, and whoever is in this work group to kind of take those variables and look at what potentially makes sense, or if we're totally off base, not make sense. But I think it has to be explored that, in my best opinion, if we are advertising a lake and we're advertising activity in and around the lake, that we probably need to support that activity with a rescue team of some sort. And I think with events that have already happened, we need to do our part in looking into what that would entail, the times of day, best use periods throughout the week, throughout the year, all those factors, and let that be the starting point to potentially build on. If this lake soon to become hustling and bustling with taxi cabs and water cabs and whatnot, and it's fully developed out, now we can expand that rescue team if needed. But I think that we need to make a starting point, and I hope this discussion or going into a group setting can come back with some real suggestions that could be presented to this council so that it can be factored in X year to implement this system. So with that said, I hope I'm making sense, and I hope that is going to start the conversation. But Tony, if you have anything to add, or anybody else from PD, that'd be great. I'll leave it there.
Thanks, council member. Yeah, I know the fire department is very supportive in looking at other options that we can do to provide a better level of service. I can tell you, in just the past couple of months, we've teamed up with the police department in doing throw bag training, getting throw bags trained and put on our fire trucks, along with on the police squads. In addition to that, we are training some new dive team members and advancing there. But to your point, we have some opportunity and I think a good discussion of looking at the call volume, not just for incidents, but also adding into the special events and trying to look at a peak time unit hour utilization of when would be best to have some type of services at the lake, and at what type of staffing capacity and where. That would be a great discussion that we would be open with.
That sounds perfect. And Councilmember Garland, that's kind of what I want to get is fire to help coordinate with PD, and if it's with our Parks and Recs department, however it may be, looking at those factors, that information, and going forward with striking up a discussion. It comes to mind, we have an Ironman, those resources, or triathlons, those resources are, if they are implemented, they could be part of the package of helping with those events also. So I know there's more depth to this discussion. And I think that if we can go forward in having that discussion, I think that would be advantageous for this group. But I really do think it'd be advantageous for the lake in general, just knowing that our public, we are actually looking into this, and hopefully we're coming up with a solution that we can build on going into the future. So that's all. Councilmember Garland, any further?
No, I don't have any other questions, but I think it's a great idea, and I think it's something that we definitely need to be doing, and we need to do some follow-up. So I'm with you.
Perfect. So I would ask Tony and the rest of the group, anything else you need for direction to kind of let you guys go and kind of, get this thing talked about and come up with some ideas, and anything else or any other concerns you're looking for?
No, I think on the fire side, we can team up with PD and also those special events, the different subcommittees for special events, and truly look at what needs the lake would have, and try to come up with multiple options and ideas to be able to present to this group again and council.
Perfect. Well, I like it. That's all I have.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
What, Doreen, just to that point, what timelines do we want to give them, just to kind of, I don't want to wait too far along, so to speak, but I think that I know we have Super Bowl and all these other events coming up, which do take some time. Tony, do you have any best ideas what you guys might need?
What timeline? Yeah.
Obviously with the Super Bowl coming up, there's a lot of different committee groups and everything going on right now. But let me do this. I would probably at least say a couple of months, maybe, just to initially at least get with PD to outline some goals and objectives and come up with a unified plan, and then kind of go from there. But if you could give me like a month of teaming up with them and get you a hard date after that point.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I do understand if it has to be pushed back a little bit after February, I totally get that too. But I think if you can get the ball rolling, just to kind of get them thinking about it, geared up, and then looking at those possibilities, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
No
All
problem.
right. All right, so we're going to move on to item 4A2, and that is a presentation on park rule changes and the homeless solutions update. We're going to do that with Community Services Director Craig Hayton and Police Lieutenant John Gilliton. I knew I'd mess it up as soon as we got on the air. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Councilmembers Garland and Navarro. We are also joined by Jessica Wright, who is a huge part of our multi-departmental team, and Aaron Kirkpatrick, Community Services Manager for Parks, won't be presenting, but is here to help answer some questions as well. So I'll provide just a brief kind of intro. We know that parks are a gathering place and building place for community within Tempe, not just locally within Tempe, but also as a regional hub. We just talked about the Tempe Town Lake and the Rio Salado parks. And we know that we're in the business of providing recreational experiences that really impact lives, improve quality of life, and those experiences are founded upon safety and cleanliness. So this is a very timely update from our team. And to do that, it really does take a multi-departmental effort. Though we've got 3 different teams represented here, there are so many folks behind the scenes that are continuing to work together. And I would love to, if we could go to the next slide, please. I know we spoke at length at the work study session last week about the river bottom, but I'm just going to use that to intro our approach to working through challenging situations, no more than that. But we're going to turn it over to Jessica to talk through outreach, things that we're learning and continuing to modify and pivot. We'll turn it over to Lieutenant Giltonen for the enforcement strategy, and then I'll wrap it up with some of the park rules changes that we have implemented administratively and then are looking at coming back and implementing through council action here in the next actually few weeks through council meetings. So next slide, please, Paul. First, just to highlight our approach with the river bottom, just is one of the most complex kind of projects that we're working on, but it is not devoid of the personal touch of working through, thinking about people first, and then trying to work through some of the additional challenges. And though myself and Richard Adkins from the city's parks team works on the ultimate goal of providing really clean vegetative spaces, we do lead with our human services team in conjunction with our police department team in providing that people first opportunity. So then we know that there's additional work that has to go behind that from a parks perspective. It can be some rules or how we better manage space or improve spaces through capital improvements. Mayor and council have made a significant investment within the capital program within the city and within our park specifically. So just utilizing our approach to be very methodical, but also to make sure that we're flexing. We're leading with addressing the human need first, and then working behind to make sure that we get systems and structures in place to ensure long-term sustainability. So within that, just highlighting the river bottom very quickly here. The next couple slides are just a recap from last week's work study session, which is just identifies the areas west of the Tempe Town Lake, and then also the areas east of the Tempe Town Lake that we're working through. And it really does take a village to work through something this complex. And we're utilizing what we're learning here in working through some public safety or park safety updates that I'm going to turn it over to Jessica now, some things that we learned. So Paul, we could probably jump ahead a couple slides and get to the next slide from here on the outreach success in the Tempe River bottom. If we could back up one, please. Yep, perfect. And I'll turn it over to Jessica from here to talk through the human services component. Again, working together, but really leading with the people first.
Thank you, Craig. And that's exactly what I want to emphasize too, is that any of the successes that we had with our outreach in the river bottom was a real collaborative effort between departments. That's exactly what we wanted to highlight with just what we're showing here. We had intentional partnerships in our outreach with our officers from Tempe PD. We had Care 7 out with us. We had community partners like Circle the City out with us on a regular basis, almost every single time we were out. And so those kind of intentional efforts happened for months. We encountered 75 unique individuals that we would say we encountered them multiple times throughout our times down there. And throughout that kind of interdepartmental approach and that approach with, again, offering services, offering shelter first, offering resources through our HOPE team, we were able to shelter 50 of those individuals, which is a huge success for us. We're very proud that we were able to work with so many different unique folks to meet their own unique needs to get them into the next step of housing. So we want to use those bits of knowledge that we have already for just continued success throughout the city, continued success in our parks, and utilizing those partnership approaches, working directly with community agencies in partnership, not only just within our departments, but also our community agencies, such as Native American Connections. We made the offer for our folks from Hugs from the Houseless to come out and outreach with us. We want to be able to engage with those partnerships. Again, of course, Circle the City, of course, they're fantastic partners for us as well. So we're looking forward to just continuing that in the parks. And if you can go to the next slide, please. We're also looking at other additional opportunities. We have worked with some other community agencies to streamline shelter service provision through a pilot that we're doing right now, even with TCAA, a Step Into Housing partnership, to really support individuals that are experiencing homelessness that are of older age, and to work with TCAA and iHelp in just streamlining those services and the steps from their shelter space into our shelter spaces that we have available in the non-congregate settings. We're also pursuing federal opportunities to expand case management services at our city shelters. And through that, we're going to be leading the regional initiative should Maricopa County be selected as being funded. And we're also looking at the other potential funding for increased behavioral health services through Care 7 and their ability to be an access provider and a funding source, a billing source now too. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to Lieutenant Giltonen. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. If we can move to the next slide, please. So the police department is partnering with a lot of entities throughout the city in a multidimensional enforcement effort. Before we even went out into the field, the police department has had every field operations officer and sergeant attend a 1-hour block of training in the strategy that we're going to be deploying. That training consisted of constitutional issues, most importantly, how to treat everybody equally under the law. It focused on what has been repeated a couple times so far in the meeting, that all people have an inherent dignity and they deserve to be treated with the respect that that dignity affords them. And then finally, we talk about how to best move through an enforcement strategy where the Tempe Police Department focuses on the enforcement of applicable criminal and traffic laws for this. If we can move on to the next slide, please. The good part, and this is what I've told every single officer and sergeant that I have done the training for, the good part is that the city is supporting us 100%. The most visible sign of support comes with our private security partners. We have 3 different firms that we are working with: Allied, Wyndham, and Team Security. And each firm is bringing something a little bit unique and a little bit different to the park security process. Some firms come and do randomized patrols, developed to be unpredictable in nature. Some have stationary patrols, and some have walking patrols at various hours throughout the night. Again, what I tell our department, our officers, and our sergeants is we are not walking this alone, and that we are supported. If we can have the next slide, please. The park security and for future code enforcement responders are going to be responsible for enforcing code of conduct violations. This will leave the Tempe Police Department free to investigate the code of conduct when it bridges the gap into applicable criminal and traffic laws. The police department is committed to upholding the code of conduct through a system of educational contacts, trespass warnings, and then ultimately trespass enforcement from each park. If we can have the next slide, please. So as everybody knows, our code of conduct is housed at various places throughout the municipal code. It gives us the strength and the backing to be able to make the educational contacts and the trespass warnings and trespass enforcement thereafter. Next slide, please. All right, so for an educational contact, we have developed a system where our private security firms and the Tempe Police Department work together to provide educational contacts for people on their first offense. An educational contact is for the entirety of the Tempe Park system, meaning if I committed a code of conduct violation down at Tempe Sports Complex and I have a properly documented educational contact, then that educational contact is sufficient for Daily Park, it's sufficient for Hallman Park, it's sufficient for every single park in our system, and we can therefore move on to trespass warnings. The educational contacts given by park security and future code enforcement responders will have the same weight and effect that educational contacts given by the police department will have when they are properly documented. The next slide, please. Once an offender has been given an educational contact and they should have full knowledge of the code of conduct and the Tempe Park rules, the PD and our private security partners are going to move on to trespass warnings. There are a couple key things for trespass. One is knowingly they have to have full understanding that they cannot be on the property And then the second part that I have bolded out is for a person having lawful authority on it. And as I explained to my officers and sergeants, we as the city are giving private security the ability to have lawful control and authority over our parks to assist with trespass warnings. The trespass warning has to be site specific. So whereas the educational contact was good for the entirety of the park system, a trespass warning is park specific, meaning that if I get trespass warning from Daly Park, it is for Daly Park. The trespass warning for the first code of conduct violation will be for 30 days. Subsequent code of conduct violations will be for 365 days. And then any criminal conduct, be it felony, misdemeanor, violent, nonviolent, will result in a 365-day trespass warning. Next slide, please. So after the trespass warnings, we will enforce trespassing in the 3rd degree for our park system. And this is what I have asked for each of our Tempe field operations officers and sergeants. In the unobligated time, which means the time between calls for service and writing reports. So unobligated time, please provide extra patrols to the parks in your assigned sector. And the rest of the slide basically walks them through what the educational contact requirements will be and what the trespass requirements will be. But at the end of the day, it's going to be one educational contact, one trespass warning, and then subsequent trespass enforcement. Next slide, please. Again, field operations is not walking alone on this. Aside from in addition to the private security firms, we have various departments or various bureaus within the police department helping us. Our daytime bikes will be focusing on north side parks. Next slide, please. Our nighttime bikes will focus on JC, Tempe, and 6th Street Park. Then on Friday and Saturday night, because of the enormity of what is our downtown district and what bar close consists of, our nighttime bikes will focus solely on JC Park and 6th Street Park. Final slide, please. And then our Office of Community Policing will dedicate time on Mondays to park checks to assist with this effort. We are hoping as a department that we will have a what we consider to be a heavy lift in the next couple of months as this ball starts rolling, and then we will be able to move into a maintenance where all of our residents can use the parks for their intended purposes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lieutenant Giltonen. With this last slide before any questions or discussion, to add on to the code that the lieutenant just mentioned that they are addressing within private security, but also falling back up with the police presence, is we have updated 3 park rules. There are 3 new prohibitions on illegal drug use and paraphernalia being the first. It's pulling in something that is a criminal activity within the parks code. So something that already exists. It's not okay for illegal drug use outside of this piece, but it is identifying it and more clearly posting it within signage. Blocking access to amenities or damaging landscape is an additional prohibition that we've listed. And then the use of ramadas for longer than 4 hours other than with a reservation is an additional rule. We have administratively implemented in various parks and posted within various parks, which we're allowed to by code. But we are going to seek mayor and council approval through 2 public hearings coming up starting next week for these 3 rules to be implemented across the park system. So we have the ability per code to implement in certain areas, but we're going to be looking for mayor and council support and also open it up for public hearing, for public comment as part of the October 20th and potentially the November 3rd council meeting. So those are 3 new park rules that we're looking at, and would be happy to from here answer any questions, but appreciate your time, council members Garland and Navarro.
Thank you so much. I do have one question on this slide. Are all of the park hours the same?
They are not. We have typically, there is freedom and flexibility within the code. If there is lighting within a park, it can be open until midnight. Without lighting, a park closes at 10. We have, over the past few years, surveyed community members to see what their interest is in moving to 10 o'clock. And it's been mixed. Half of the community members have been very much in favor of moving to 10, and some have been very much opposed to moving to 10 o'clock. They like the midnight hours, especially in the summertime. So we have 10 and midnight for the most part.
Okay. The other question is the park rules, are they posted at the parks?
They are. We've added stickers onto the park rule signs for the parks where it has been added. We will do the same if it happens to pass for all, and then update signage with a new sign package coming in the subsequent years as we work through that larger process. But that was one of our first calls, was making sure that we got stickers out there.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. And then Officer Gilton and I wrote a couple notes here, or like one, I think. The educational contact slide that you had, you talked about the PD and the 3 security companies that we have. I really like the fact that you are training them the exact same way across the board so that there's consistency, so that people, if they encounter the officers of security guard, that there's consistency in the message. I think that's really super important. And I really appreciate you guys doing that. I think that was a really smart way to do that. And then that was, so I guess it was just a comment, not a question. And then Jessica, I was really surprised at the river bottom that we've housed 50 out of 75. That's a really high number. I mean, compared to what our housing percentage or sheltered percentage is across the city. So I was really impressed with that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And, you know, I like the fact that, as Craig said at the very beginning, I like the fact that the city of Tempe, even though we're trying to do what's right for the entire community, our sheltered and our unsheltered residents in the city of Tempe, I love that Craig said that we always lead with people first. And I think that's the important thing for us to remember. Some of these things that we're doing are not easy. But, you know, if we always lead with people first and that compassion first, you know, I think that's the right thing for us to do. And I really appreciate that that's the way that we are approaching all of this. I just want to say thank you to that. And Joel, do you have any questions?
No, thanks, Councilman Garland. No, it was a great presentation. I think you guys are right on track on how you're handling this issue. So nothing, it was perfect. Thank you.
Yep. And it's great with me, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to present to our council committee meeting today. We really appreciate it. We know your time is valuable, and we just appreciate you spending some time with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
We are going to move on to committee session item 4A3. And I'd like to, what this is going to be, this is our discussion on our committee work plan. So our committee has a plan that we need to get approved, that we discuss in this meeting, and then we get it approved by our council colleagues to use that plan moving forward for the year. So I'm going to turn this over to Paul Smith-Leonard, my council aide, and Sarah Keon. Sarah, how do you pronounce your last name? I can't believe I just said it wrong.
Keon.
Okay, great. I did get it right. Yee-hee. All right, I've only made one mistake name today. But I'm going to turn it over to you guys for that discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Garland. Yeah, just again, we're here to discuss the HSCS committee work plan. It was last updated in June 2021. Just to facilitate this discussion, I wanted to present a few slides here. This first slide is the existing work plan, council members. Just to ease and aid our discussion today, I have some proposed changes here. These are the changes that we are going to be making. I don't know, council members, can you see the items that have been proposed to be deleted from the work plan? And then we can go on to items that have been added to the work plan.
Yes, I can see the lines across the ones that we are going to be deleting. So yes, I can see those.
Just to go over each of those for full transparency, we will be proposing to delete item number A3, examining the interdepartmental solution to park and downtown safety. And we will be proposing to delete item B1, which is identify areas of improvement for a COVID-19 wastewater dashboard. And B3, examining the relationship between cannabis dispensaries and a reduction in opioid deaths. All other items on the work plan that was approved in June of 2021 will be carried over to the new proposed work plan for 2022-2023.
Okay.
So the next slide is going to have the proposed additions to the work plan. Made a few highlighted entries here. One addition would be to A2, which is examining the interdepartmental solution to park and downtown safety. We will be keeping that and also adding water safety, which is what we've covered at this meeting and in our previous meeting in June of this year. And we are also proposing to add D1, achieving the age-friendly community designation for livability from AARP, and D2, examining ways to expand availability of free and low-cost sports and recreation opportunities for children and teens. We have some performance measures that correspond to those. For D1, it's age-friendly community designation. That's 3.30. And for D2, that's youth safety and juvenile crime, 1.32. There's an addition or a clarification to item D4, examining the opportunity for the establishment of a family advocacy center within city limits. That's very thankfully now open. So we are looking to do at least one presentation on the open FAC with this committee.
So with D4, would we want to just change that to just like instead of examine the opportunity for establishment, maybe like change that to discussion of the established family advocacy center? Just because we're not examining the opportunity anymore because it's already open now.
Yes, Councilmember, we'll change that language so that it's clear that we are going to be focusing on an opened FAC and moving forward, keeping that on our work plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Navarro?
I have nothing. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you, council members. So this would, if there is consensus on this, and I believe that there is, this will move on to a future work study session, and it'll be considered by the committee of the whole.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Awesome. All right. If we are done with your presentation, then I think we will go ahead and move on. We are now at 4B1. And is examine the presentations for the next council committee meeting, which will be, let's see, agenda items for any future meeting that will be at a later date. Do we have any other items that we want to add to the next meeting? Jill, do you have anything specific now that you'd like to add or anything?
No, I think my last one, they got their work cut out for a little bit.
I agree. All right. So then we're going to move to item 5, which is our next meeting date, which will be November 23rd. Our Human Services and Community Safety Committee meetings are normally the 4th Friday of the month. But since we have determined that the 4th Friday of November is, what is it, Black Friday? Is that what we decided? Is that what it was, Paul?
That is correct, Councilmember.
Yes. We would assume that we were all going to be shopping that day and nobody will be coming to the meeting. So we are looking at doing it on Wednesday, November 23rd. And then after that, we'll get back to our 4th Friday of the month.
I'd just like to add, council members, that's set to be a hybrid meeting. So we will be in chambers and we'll also have a virtual option for people to dial in.
Oh my gosh, that'll be so fun. Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. So we know what our next meeting is going to be. So we're down to item number 6. We're ready to adjourn. Joel, unless you have anything else, we're going to go ahead and adjourn our meeting.
I say we adjourn.
Let's do it. Wow, look at that, 40 minutes.
Love it.
All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Sarah.